Nest cameras. They are Nest cameras, plural, and that whoever did this may have smashed those cameras, plural. So
before we get into this mess, everything I'm laying out is from verified reports by the big news desks. No rumors here. We're talking public info and quotes from people with real names. If I'm getting it from just one source, I'm telling you straight, someone's got to be honest. If I'm giving you my own take, I'll label it that way. And listen, nobody in this story is officially a suspect yet, not a soul. Ain't nobody been named as a suspect in Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. This is an active federal job. The feds are everywhere. Nancy's still gone. Her folks deserve some damn answers, and this place only deals in the brass tacks. The truth is a heavy burden. You already heard about that front doorbell camera. You know the feed went pitch black at 1:47 in the morning on February 1st. Total silence. You've seen the footage. That hand in a glove reaching for the lens, knowing exactly where to hit. This wasn't some random job. It was a pro. That lens was supposed to grab faces and plates, but the guy knew better. The Bureau had to go knocking on Google's door just to get a scrap of data. They were desperate. They had to dig into the guts of the servers just to find whatever digital breadcrumbs survived after that camera was murdered. Digital ghosts are hard to catch. Folks have talked that front door camera to death, and for good reason. It's the big piece of the puzzle everyone sees, but it ain't the whole story. We got proof that whoever snatched Nancy that night didn't just stumble onto the porch. They knew the layout. They knew the weak spots. They knew that camera had to die, and they killed it quick. But here's the real kicker I'm looking at today. Something most people missed. While everyone's obsessed with that front door, Nancy had a lot more eyes on her property than that. A whole second line of defense. The security setup at Nancy's place has been ignored by almost everyone. Multiple cameras were watching the backyard and the sides. Nothing was left to chance. Those units were watching the pool area, waiting for movement. My sources say the feds hauled them all in for evidence. They wanted every frame. Those cameras were doing their job, snapping pictures all night. And get this, the person who took Nancy didn't even touch some of them. They just let them run. The feds got the footage, and an insider over at ABC News spilled what those lenses actually saw. It changes everything. Those units were working just fine, waiting for a twitch of movement. They were scattered all over the back half of the lot, watching, waiting. What'd they see? The source says, and I'm quoting here, nothing suspicious. Think about that for a second. It's a bad sign. The cameras in the back and on the sides didn't catch a single thing the night Nancy was taken. No movement, no nothing. They used one specific word to describe it. Odd. If you've been following this, that word should make the hair on your neck stand up. Federal agents don't throw around words such as odd because they're bored. To them, odd don't mean it's a coincidence. It means something's wrong. It ain't just unexplained. It means the pieces don't fit the frame. The whole pattern just shattered. When a pattern breaks in a federal kidnapping case, you don't ignore it. You grab that thread and you pull hard. Today, we're going to yank that thread till the whole thing comes apart. We're looking at every inch of 7,351 East Placida, no stone unturned. Before we get into what those backyard eyes missed, let's lay out the facts we actually got in our hands. Ground truth only. We're looking at Nancy's security setup, the real deal, verified stuff, not the crap people are making up on the internet. Rumors don't solve cases. That Nest doorbell is a lock. The Pima County Sheriff's Office came out and said exactly when it went dead. They confirmed the kill. It was cut off right around 1:47 in the morning, February 1st, 2026, right when the nightmare started. The Bureau managed to claw back some frames from right before it died. They had to play ball with Google to get it. They needed a miracle. They went through the back-end servers, and every major news outlet has verified it. This part ain't up for debate. It's solid. Now let's talk about the house. Nancy's place in Sabino Canyon, over in Tucson, is a standard residential lot. Just a house on a street. It's got a backyard, a pool, and side paths. Same as most folks in that part of Tucson, Nancy took her security seriously. She wasn't careless. There were more eyes on that house than just the front door. Sources close to the heat say the feds pulled images from all over, every angle covered. The Bureau got their hands on imagery from motion-triggered cameras watching the backyard, the sides, and the pool. They were looking for a ghost. These weren't rolling tape 24/7. They only woke up when something moved, snapping still shots or quick bursts. They only see what moves. When the sensor tripped, it generated what the sources call thumbnail images, just little snapshots of the scene, tiny windows into the dark. I'm going to be real specific here that thumbnail talk comes straight from ABC News. Sourcing is everything in this game. You got to trust the source. These sources are people briefed on the case, but the Pima County Sheriff hasn't put their stamp on it yet. It's still unofficial. The feds haven't said it on the record either, but a major news desk is betting their reputation on it. That carries weight. Nobody's come out to say it's wrong, but keep in mind, it's only coming from one place right now. I'm flagging that for you. It ain't that I don't trust it. I just want you to know the score. Let's look at the board again. Here's what we got. Doorbell died at 1:47 a.m. The motion cameras in the back were still breathing, waiting to catch a move. They were wide awake. Those cameras covered the yard and the sides, but they didn't catch a single suspicious thing the night she was grabbed. Not a damn thing. FBI's got the backyard and pool footage in hand. Digital eyes don't blink. Those motion sensors snap stills. The real question is what's hidden in those frames. ABC says this wasn't from the night of the snatch, but the days leading up to February 1st. In that window, those cameras tripped a lot for different people. Faces were prowling Nancy's yard multiple times before she vanished. Feds have those images. Sit with that for a minute before we go further. Every single thing about that night rests on this one detail. Then there's the smashing. Banfield says it's ugly, but things get twisted here. Sourcing is everything. The Drop Dead Serious podcast has been pushing hard. They're leaning on brass-adjacent sources and dropped a heavy claim. It goes way past the front doorbell. An inside source spilled the gut. It wasn't just the front door getting hit on the night of February 1st. Mrs. Guthrie had a whole network, and someone took a hammer to him. This is a single-source report, but they claim multiple lenses were shattered. They didn't stop there. They killed the outside lights, too. Total blackout. I'm walking a line here. This smash job hasn't been backed up yet. Nobody else is reporting this besides Banfield. It's an island of info. Maybe that source is gold, or maybe they're only seeing half the truth. Could be they only wrecked some gear, not the whole works. I ain't saying it's gospel, it's one guy's word, and the flag stays up. But if it's true, think about the weight of it. Smashing everything. If they neutralize the perimeter that night, the game changes. That ain't random. That's a blueprint being followed. You don't kill lights and lenses if you're just winging it. You do that because you've walked the grounds and found every blind spot. You made a cold call on which gear could burn you. Cops call it pre-op surveillance. Pure scouting. If the gear was targeted like that, we're talking about a professional. Here's the rub. Banfield's claim hits a wall against ABC's reporting. If someone was systematically wiping out security, why leave the backyard alone? Why let the side and pool cameras stay perfectly intact? That ain't just a small hole in the story, it's a canyon. You don't miss half the cameras during a hit unless you're blind. Or maybe you left them on purpose. But they saw people there days before. People who knew they were being watched. The didn't see 'em excuse is thin. So we gotta talk about the gear they didn't touch, the real meat. This is the part that keeps me up. The logic of what remained. Backyard, side, pool. All that tech was pulled out clean by the feds. No damage, no tampering, still recording the whole damn time. There's only 3 ways to explain why those cameras survived that night. Whichever one sticks tells us exactly who we're hunting. Option 1. The snatch team was just plain ignorant. They were in a rush, grabbed Nancy, and burned rubber. They nuked the doorbell cam and figured they were ghosts. This theory holds water until you realize those cameras caught scouts for days. If you or your crew had, you'd been crawling all over that yard days before, close enough for the motion sensors to pin you. You knew those glass eyes were watching. You walked right past them. You were on tape. Theory 2. Those backyard cameras were tucked away too tight, or maybe messing with them meant getting caught. Maybe wasting time smashing up the back lot wasn't worth the heat. Risks are for suckers. Priority 1 was that front doorbell, the one most likely to slap a face on a police sketch. The backyard stuff? Second-tier garbage. This fits the crime like a glove. It makes sense. The front door was where the war started. The back lot was just scenery, not central to the hit. Theory 3. Those cameras didn't get busted because they didn't need to be. Not because they were blind, but because someone made sure whatever they saw that night was never going to see the light of day. This is the one the feds are chewing on if you listen to how the brass is talking. They call that night's footage odd. That, plus the way this whole job was surgical. Professional work. This case has been cold-blooded since day one, if you know the yard, if you've been there. If you map the blind spots and the tripwires, you could ghost through that backyard without waking a sensor. You plan the path so the eyes never blink. Or, and this is where things get real technical, you don't have to hide if you've already made sure the cameras ain't recording a damn thing. The thumbnail headache. Here is what those motion cameras actually do. Let me break down the gear. Knowing how these gadgets tick is why the missing tape screams so loud. You gotta get this part. On the night Nancy disappeared, a motion camera wasn't acting like some dashboard cam. It ain't rolling 24/7. It ain't a movie you can just rewind and watch. It is a tripwire. When the heat sensor or pixels jump, the system wakes up and bites. The camera kicks on and grabs a burst of pictures or a quick clip, just a snapshot of time. Those shots get a timestamp and head to the cloud or a hard drive. Digital breadcrumbs. For the cops, this ain't a movie marathon. It is a scattered puzzle of specific moments. It is a logbook, a list of times when the sensors felt something moving in the dark. No detection, no capture, no tape, just a big, empty hole in time. The FBI grabbed the files from the back and side yards. They have the log and the times. They have every thumbnail from every twitch those cameras caught before February 1st. Every single one. That log was busy. People walking, things moving, days of activity. Then came February 1st. During the hours Nancy Guthrie was snatched, that log is bone dry. Nothing suspicious at all. Think about that. How does a motion camera stay dead quiet when a kidnapper is right there? If someone is moving through the yard and the camera stays dark, only a few things happened. Either nobody was there, or the whole system took a dive because it broke or got jammed. Or the pictures were taken but never made it to the file. Someone cut the throat of the signal, between the sensor seeing a ghost and the image hitting the internet. Something died in the middle. The path is simple. Sensor trips, camera snaps, image flies through the Wi-Fi. That is how it works. It hits the cloud account and sits on a server somewhere far away, safe and sound. Usually, if that wire is cut, Wi-Fi drops, or the account gets locked, the whole thing falls apart. The camera reboots or the passwords change. The image happens, but the record stays blank, cold, or the sensor itself gets gagged through remote access. Someone logged in and told it to sleep. I'm going to talk about that remote access play in a bit. It is the real nightmare here. Get this framework in your head first. The missing footage from February 1st matters a lot. It ain't that the cameras weren't there. It ain't that they didn't see anything. They were awake. Depending on the tech, an empty record can mean a hell of a lot more than nothing happened. What odd really means to a federal agent? I want to look at that word again. People ain't giving that word enough weight. Odd is how the feds describe a ghost. Labeling a find nothing suspicious or odd isn't just filler noise, it's a breadcrumb leading somewhere dark. When a suit inside a federal snatch and grab case, or someone high enough to see the files, speaks up, they get specific about the evidence and call a find odd. They ain't just killing time over coffee. They're flagging a piece of the puzzle that's jagged, something that doesn't fit the picture everyone's painting. Everything else the brass knows just doesn't line up. Here is the deal with those backyard cameras. If those lenses didn't catch a thing because the whole hit happened out front, that's just basic physics. If the crew came and went through the front yard right where the doorbell sits, avoiding the back, then nothing suspicious wouldn't be odd. It'd be expected. Feds don't lose sleep over an empty frame. They wouldn't give a damn about a camera that didn't see anything if the backyard wasn't the stage. The fact that they called it odd means the feds had a heavy expectation they'd see a ghost. They figured those cameras would have a story to tell, but they got silence. There's two reasons why. First, the footage from the days before showing a pack of strangers in that backyard and side yard. Second, the staging theory the feds are building. If the suits think, based on other hard evidence, that whoever took Nancy Guthrie used the back to get in, that the yard was their path, then those cameras showing zero activity the night she vanished? That's not just a quiet night. It's a silence that screams. Think like a detective. You've got gear that was definitely working fine. It was picking up people just days ago. A crime goes down, you pull the hard drive. You're looking for that one trigger. A guy in the grass, slipping toward the house from the side. Getting ready for the hit, and you find nothing. That void is the finding, not the footage, the void. That's the kind of thing that guys with 30 years of hunting killers under their belts notice. They use that word odd because it's a riddle with only two answers. It's a coin flip. Either the cameras flat out missed the show because of a bad angle or some technical screw-up, or the crew knew the blind spots. Or the cameras didn't miss it, they were stopped from seeing. If they were blocked, then that blank space isn't a glitch, it's a professional's cold signature. The gap between a camera missing a shot and being blinded is where this whole case breaks open. I'd say it's the biggest mystery left in this mess, the people who were back there before. Let's look at that pre-snatch footage again, because people aren't talking about this enough. It matters. Sources at ABC News say those motion-activated cameras in the back and side yards caught something. Days before February 1st, they didn't just see one guy, they saw a few people at that home. Not some blur at the edge of the frame, we're talking multiple individuals showing up more than once. Let that sit in your gut for a second. In a professional snatch-and-grab case like this one, especially one the FBI calls a targeted hit, not some random act of bad luck. The prep work, the recon is the whole game. If you're going to pluck someone from their house, in the dead of night on a tight clock, you don't wing it. You do your homework first. You walk the yard. You learn the routines. You find the holes, the cameras, the lights, the locks. You check where she sleeps, and when the house goes dark, you do that scout work early. You do it days before the job, not the night of. Those cameras catching people days prior. Catching them close enough to trip the sensors isn't just a detail, it's likely the recon mission. It might be the actual scout phase caught on tape, but let's be honest about the unknowns. It's a long list. We don't have names for those faces. The FBI is digging hard. But nobody's saying if they've pegged them, or if they're just ghosts in the wind right now. We don't know if they're family, friends, or tied to the suspects. Maybe there's a normal reason. A pool guy or a mower. Maybe just neighbors. Or maybe it was something much more sinister. Something darker. Here is what we know. The FBI thought those images were worth a file entry. And the insiders thought they were important enough to tell the world about them. The news hounds don't usually bark about footage that the suits have already cleared. That is where the real link hides. A few ghosts were haunting that backyard and the side alleys on multiple occasions just days before she vanished. But when the night of the snatch arrived, those lenses didn't catch a damn thing. If those earlier prowlers were running a dry run, mapping out the dirt and tripping the motion sensors on purpose to see the response, they would have had the whole layout clocked by February 1st. They knew exactly what those glass eyes could spot. They would have pinned down the kill zones. They found the holes where the light didn't reach. They knew if their move that night was going to trip the wire or let them pass by like a breeze. Scouting a job ain't just about looking. It is cold risk assessment. You hit the dirt in the days before because you don't want any nasty surprises. If you'd crept through that yard a dozen times and watched the red lights blink and the phone pings hit, you would have the whole score. You would have a perfect map of where to step and where to stay invisible. That means on February 1st, you either danced around those sensors like a pro or you made sure those cameras went blind. Either way, that ain't the work of some random crackhead or a guy acting on a whim. This took serious planning. This was someone who had walked that grass before, someone who knew the house like their own. Then there is the Google angle. This Nest setup has a side to it that nobody is talking about in the bars. It ties right into how the feds are playing this and how the whole snatch and grab was scripted. The bell at Nancy Guthrie's front door was a Nest camera, a Google snitch. The feds pulled the tapes even after it got busted because Nest gear works on cloud tech. Everything is in the sky. The video don't just sit on the plastic box. It is transmitted and stored far away. It gets beamed straight to Google's big brain. When the feds needed the goods, they went to the source. That bit the suits working with Google to dig up data from a smashed-up doorbell. That has been confirmed by the big papers. It is cold, hard fact. It happened. Now here is the one question that ain't being shouted loud enough for the back row. Those cameras in the back and on the side. Were they part of the same crew? Same Nest account? We don't have a straight answer on that yet. Nobody has put it in print, but it changes everything. If those lenses were all under that same Google umbrella, the same login, the same cloud, then whoever cut the doorbell at 1:47 in the morning was already inside the fence. They had enough history with the system to get close and kill the signal. Maybe they had the password, maybe they had physical access, or maybe they just knew the layout. Either way, they were playing in that system's sandbox and knew where the edges were. And if they had the keys to the kingdom, they could reach every single camera on the property. You can run those Google accounts from a burner phone miles away. You can tweak the sensitivity, the recording modes, and the alerts without ever stepping foot on the porch. If someone had that login, they could just tell the cameras to look the other way. They could shut them down remote style. No broken mounts, no fingerprints, no nothing. I ain't saying that is the gospel truth. No source has put a stamp on it yet. I am saying the tech's there and it fits the crime scene like a glove. Clean cameras, no footage the night she went, and a source who thinks the whole thing stinks. If the feds deep dive into Google's guts found more than just that doorbell clip, like login logs and activity hits from the backyard lenses, that is the smoking gun. The investigators got that in their files. It tells them exactly who was messing with the power. We don't know what is in that folder, but we know they went looking. And we know the backyard went dark the night Nancy was taken. Those two things together? That is a hell of a lot more than a coincidence. That 1:47 a.m. window by Grided and their DM&A/ is still the bullseye for every badge working this job. Let's piece together that camera timeline from the early hours of February 1st. I'm using verified reports here because laying it out shows the missing pieces. That front doorbell camera just goes dark at roughly 1:47 a.m. The Pima County Sheriff boys confirmed that timestamp is the end of the line. Whatever happened out front went down right then or before total, suffocating silence. Now those backyard cameras and motion units on the night of February 1st? Were they snapping thumbnail shots up to a point and then just quitting? Did they die before 1:47, after, or did they roll all night? Nobody's told the public that yet, and it is a massive, dirty secret. If those cameras went quiet hours before the doorbell, that's one ugly story. It means the yard was empty or someone forced those lenses to blink. A pro was likely in position early, dodging every yard sensor. Or a remote ghost messed with the gear before the physical hit started. Say those backyard cameras were acting normal, just catching a neighbor's cat. If they flatlined right when the doorbell cut out, that's a different animal. That's a coordinated strike killing every eye on the house at the same time. What if they kept snapping pictures all night, even during the whole abduction? If those shots show zero trouble, we gotta ask how they got in. A source says the footage is odd, meaning the feds are hitting walls. They can't explain it. If the tape made sense, it would be consistent. If the backyard stayed empty just because they used the front, that's simple. A guy on the inside wouldn't call that odd. Odd means no fit. It means that 1:47 timestamp is a lot nastier than it looks. I'm talking about remote tampering now, because that's where the trail leads. I'll be straight on where the facts stop and my gut takes over. Fact is, those backyard and side cameras weren't smashed or ripped down. The Bureau found them perfect. They'd been taking thumbnails for days before. But on the night of February 1st, they didn't catch a damn thing. A source called that finding odd. That's the framework we're stuck with. Everything coming next is me building on top. Modern smart cameras and secure homes aren't just gadgets, they're networked gear. They've got brains inside and they talk over the house's own Wi-Fi. You run them with cloud apps, which means remote access is easy. Messing with a camera remotely ain't some Hollywood movie with green code. You don't need to break encryption or find some secret software hole. All you really need is the keys to the account login. Get those Google Home credentials and you can sign in from anywhere. You can tweak settings or just tell the motion sensors to stop watching. Flip them to privacy mode and the house goes blind on command. This is where the investigation gets personal and very, very dark. If someone had insider access to Guthrie's place, getting passwords ain't tough. Maybe they're on a sticky note or just saved in some browser. Or they were shared with someone who had a key and a reason. Look, I'm not saying for sure that's how it went down here. Nobody's confirmed a remote hit yet, but I'm looking right at it. This path is real. It fits a job that mirrored a pro hit from minute one, showing heavy planning. We're talking serious prep and maybe a rat on the inside. The other option is the tech wasn't touched. Maybe those lenses just missed the snatch because it happened in a blind spot. It's a theory, but thin. You'd have to buy that some guy who'd been creeping in that yard for days, caught repeatedly, got lucky. He was on those sensors regularly, yet on February 1st, he pulls off a kidnapping without a blip. He dodges every sensor as if he's a ghost. But the suits at the Bureau ain't buying that. They use the word odd. That's cop speak for somebody's lying. Let's look at this inside man angle now. When you stack the facts, the whole security footage mess points straight to an ugly conclusion about the prep. A cold, calculated blueprint for a hit. You've heard folks talk about a mole or an inside job before. The backdoor angle. The hunch that someone knew Nancy Guthrie's place, her habits, and her security setup well. They knew the floor plan and the locks. Either they did the grabbing, or they coached the ones who did. They handed over the intel. Look at the tape. It screams insider job in a way that's easy to prove. Let's test it. A rat would know the layout. They'd know exactly where that doorbell lens was staring. They'd know it saw the street, the driveway, and every soul walking up to that front door. That lens was the biggest threat to their freedom. If they walked up the front, they were getting caught. So they knew it had to go dark. Simple as that. But they also knew about the gear out back, the backyard cams. They knew they only woke up for motion. They knew exactly where those lenses were pointing. They knew the zones and the Wi-Fi signal. If they had the password, they were basically in the room. With account access, they could kill the feed from a phone miles away. Now, look at what actually happened. Match the facts. Front doorbell? Smashed and dead. Check. But the backyard gear wasn't even touched by a finger. They were left perfectly alone. Yet, just days before, those same lenses caught several guys creeping around. Those guys knew the cameras were watching. They let themselves be seen while they were checking the place out. They were in the planning stage. Then, the night of the grab, the backyard cams show nothing. It's odd. If you were the one drawing the map for this crime, you'd do exactly what we're seeing here. You'd kill the cameras that could show your face. You'd break them or cover them up fast. But the backyard? You'd handle that differently. You'd use the app or just walk where you knew they couldn't see. You'd stick to the dark corners or keep the dirty work out front where you already killed the doorbell cam. An insider job leaves a specific mark. It ain't always what they do, it's what they don't do. It's about why the stuff they left alone didn't matter. The backyard cams weren't busted, yet they saw zero. Not a single frame of trouble. That's the signature the cops are staring at right now based on every lead. Every report and every scrap of proof since February 1st points here. Let me give you my take. I'll tell you how the feds are pulling these strings. Right now, that front doorbell footage is old news. Whatever the FBI yanked from Google's servers is likely already on their chalkboard. They've had months to digest it. They've been chewing on that data for a long time. Maybe they got a name, maybe not, but it's analyzed. It's been torn apart. Now, those thumbnails of the guys in the yard before the snatch, that's active work. The FBI has those mugs. They're running them through every database and checking every known associate in the book. They're looking at anyone with an excuse to be near that house before February 1st. Whether they hit pay dirt, if they caught a name, or if that name led them to the hideout, the Bureau is keeping quiet. No public word. But that dead air on the night of the grab, the cameras seeing nothing when they should have, that's the hottest lead they got. Not because it shows a face, but because it shows the method. It defines the play. Figuring out why those lenses went blind tells the law exactly how it went down. Once you know the how, you know who was smart enough and had the talent to do it. That source who called it odd wasn't just talking. Neither is the FBI. They're still digging in that hole. That silence is deafening. Hours of nothing from cameras that had been busy catching people for days on end. It's a massive hole in the story that needs an answer. And when federal investigators find a hole, when these guys want answers and the room stays quiet, they don't just walk away, they stay planted. They tear that problem apart from every side until the truth finally cracks or the trail goes cold enough to switch gears. Something's gotta give. Right now, that missing footage is a loose string I can't stop pulling. Let's back up and look at the whole ugly mess for a second. It gets worse. You gotta see how these cameras fit into the gut-punch reality of the Nancy Guthrie case. It ain't just a glitch. We've already looked at the proof that this wasn't some random job. This hit was laser-focused. Someone wanted her. How they moved, the perfect timing, those theories about a stage scene, and that weird second ransom note. It's a setup. Then there's that Pima County deputy who got cuffed for a different kidnapping. You gotta wonder what he knows about this. He's hiding something. Does any of that bleed into this nightmare? Maybe. But look at the footage again. That's the real gut check. The camera situation doesn't just add more noise, it actually clears the air. It makes the motive crystal clear. Too clear. It gives us a look at the homework these bastards did before they even touched her. This was the rehearsal. Days earlier, those cameras were working overtime, snapping shots of multiple people creeping through that backyard. They were being watched. The system logged every single movement, right up until the night she vanished. Then, total radio silence. Dead air. If this was just some random dirtbag grabbing a chance, you wouldn't see this pattern. This isn't how chaos looks. It's too clean. A stray predator doesn't hang out in your backyard for days before making a move. That's a pro move. They don't kill a doorbell cam with gloved hands as if they knew exactly where the lens was pointing. They had the blueprints. And they sure as hell don't leave the back cameras alone unless they know those lenses aren't going to see a thing. They weren't worried. Nothing was captured. When you look at the whole mess, it screams pre-planned hit. This was an operation. These guys were sophisticated. They knew the house, they knew the security, and they knew how to dodge it all. They were ghosts. They handled those cameras on purpose. Maybe they broke them, or maybe they just danced through the blind spots. They were calculated. Heck, they might have even hacked the feed. That ain't the work of a stranger. That's someone who did their homework. This is a blueprint of a cold-blooded plan. Now, let's look at where the cops are stuck right now. It's a dead end. They're dangling in the middle of a story that won't end. The feds have the shots from those back and side cameras. Pictures from the days before Nancy was snatched. Real people caught on film more than once. The FBI is sitting on those files. Whether they know who those people are or if those faces lead to Nancy. We're kept in the dark. Nobody's talking. On the night of February 1st, those same cameras saw absolutely nothing. A source close to the heat called that odd. Odd is a polite way saying suspicious as hell. That massive hole between the prep work and the crime night is a problem. That black hole of info is the biggest question mark in this whole damn Guthrie case. It's a screaming void. Why did they go dark? Maybe the whole snatch happened out front where the cameras couldn't see. Or maybe it's worse. Maybe the back cameras just didn't have anything to record. Or did someone creep through that yard knowing exactly where to step? Did they know the exact inch where the lens stopped seeing? That takes a special kind of monster. Or maybe someone with a login just turned the damn things off from a phone, leaving zero traces behind. That's the real nightmare. Or is there a reason we haven't even thought of? Maybe the feds already know and they're just playing it close. A reason that makes the silence actually make sense. I don't have the answer. Unless you're wearing an FBI badge, you don't either. But that source who called it odd, they know enough to realize the puzzle pieces don't fit yet. Not even close. Until someone can explain why working cameras in that yard didn't catch a damn thing the night Nancy was taken, it's a problem. Those cameras were active, but they saw nothing. That silence is screaming louder than any witness ever could. Nancy Guthrie vanished on February 1st, 2026. Her daughter is Savannah Guthrie from The Today Show. She was 73 years old when someone snatched her right out of her Tucson, Arizona home, disappeared without a trace. The feds are still hunting. If you know a single thing about this mess, you need to pick up the phone. Call the FBI tip line at 1-800. Call FBI or go to tips.fbi.gov. Do it now. Keep your eyes open. There's a lot more coming on this mess, and the strings we're pulling are starting to lead somewhere. Somewhere bad.